Welcome everyone. Stark Spaces. Exciting stuff, man. Let's wait for some people to join the live stream.
Yeah, I'm excited.
How's your day, Nathan? How-
Pretty well. Close to the end of the day here. Excited. Hello, um, Russian. I can actually pronounce and then heart and then will. And GM to you too, Hugo. Um,
GM. Nathan, how has the conversations been in the community forum until now around SNIP 28, which is what we're going to be diving into?
So I'm really excited about the not only the amount but like the substance of the comments and discussions going on there between the community forum and the Telegram channel, and super like informative, positive, constructive, either criticism or just the insights. Cool initiative about a new app for staking. So a lot of cool stuff. So I really I think everyone should check out. By the end of it, I'll share the link to the community post specifically. And um, I really appreciate if people would participate in the community forum more often, but it's just a very, very good place for conversations.
Yeah, no, super important. Brilliant minds in the starting ecosystem. We need everyone to pitch in. These are big milestones for starting it. So, welcome everyone. Today, I'm joined by Nathan from Starkware. My name is Beja. I'm from the Starnet Foundation. We're going to be going over, and Henry from the Starnet Foundation.
Hey, how are you?
How's it going, Henry? All good? We're going to be diving into SNIP 28. It's the Starking V2 proposal. Going to be speaking about governance, next steps, the future of decentralization on Starknet. So exciting stuff. Nathan, I believe you have a quick presentation that we can kick it off with.
Yeah. So I'm going to share a screen specifically. Yeah, that's good. Okay. So you can see my screen. I'm going to do the slideshow. Amazing. So a brief of what we're going to discuss today. Basically, I'm going to give a bit of a background about staking V2 in general and staking in general. I'm going to explain the motivation behind this specific version. We'll dive to the scope in high level, timeline, and then what can I expect or why the community should expect to implement and change and what they should do depending on their role in the ecosystem. And then some questions. So let's start with a very, very zoomed out background. If you have any questions, you can just post them on the like as a comment. We'll get to them. I don't know if I'll break my explanations in the middle, but we'll get to them through the slides. I don't mind stopping, having questions per slide and stuff. So background. For those who don't know, Starknet is transitioning between two consensus protocols. Basically, as all validity rollups and generally rollups, it started as centralized, and now it's transitioning to being decentralized. With the future protocol, the consensus protocol will be a proof of stake based consensus protocol. And it's not a secret. As a validity rollup, the fact that we're centralized was not as severe as in other cases. Mainly, we prove the validity of all of the transactions, and but yet we still believe in the broadness of the community, and we believe that the network should be decentralized and run by the community. So this is why we're diving heads first to this effort of decentralization. Doing it takes time. And not only that, Ethereum, which is the only main network I know of the transition between two consensus protocol, it took more than 2 years with a lot of uncertainties. And if we want to do it while keeping Starknet live, which is the main goal, right? We want to develop and enlarge Starknet as an ecosystem, as a community, and do this transition. So we want to do it in incremental steps. So that's the very, very zoomed out, thinking behind staking versions and in general where we are now. Staking V1 was launched on November 26, 2024, like a few months ago. And now it's like a very, very natural continuation of this effort. Okay, so what is the motivation for V2? Basically, entrusting core functionalities of the network with validators is pretty soon to come. So I'm not talking about like 5 years from now. We're talking about transitioning some of the very, very important qualities or infrastructure maintenance functionalities to the validators relatively soon. Either it be validating blocks or sequencing them. So we don't have a yet finalized and public plan, but it is, I can say, sooner than you can expect. And before we want to, like I said, entrust the network with validators, there's some prerequisites we want to make sure we're abiding to. So the first thing we want to do is to make sure that the incentive structure is there. So either it's you'll get good rewards and you'll get like a positively you'll get positively affected if you are an honest validator, and the other way around. So either slashing if you're dishonest validator. So both of these things are very, very important. We just scratched the surface with V1, checking all of the incentive structures of the, I would say, positive actions. The second thing we want to do is make sure that all of the validators are able to run reliable infrastructure. So this is crucial, right? Because if the validators cannot maintain actual good infra, the network would suffer immensely. So these are the two main prerequisites we want to abide before we are moving towards giving core functionalities to the validators. Like I said, staking V1 was mainly focused on economic incentive structures, and staking V2 focused on validator reliability. So that's the motivation for V2. If there's any specific questions about that, we're waiting a minute to see the comments.
I don't see any
Or
in
Henry?
the comments so far, so I'll ping you if we see one.
Amazing. Okay, so focusing on validator reliability. So what we actually have in V2. So the first and main feature is block attestations. Basically, validator will need to attest to randomly selected blocks. The idea is they don't know in advance what blocks they need to attest to and what information they need to send. This means they need to track the network in a very, very frequent way. And rewards would be earned only if they successfully attest to blocks. So this ensures that validators run infrastructure in 24/7, and otherwise they won't get the rewards. So the infrastructure they should run, the actual stack, is a full node that tracks the network with a specific package that is responsible for block attestations. What do we need to implement this with? We need the sense of epochs. So why we need epochs? Basically, we want to have a granulate measure of blocks that every time an epoch has passed, we can randomly choose another set of blocks to be attested to. So the idea is I want validators to attest to blocks, but if they need to attest to every block, this is repetitive and again, not checking any reliability or live measures. We want to randomly choose blocks, and this granulation of I would say tasks is done by epochs. This is also a preparation for the decentralized consensus mechanism. So by the end of it, every epoch would basically, for every epoch, will have a new leader election, round table, basically round robin serialization of the validator set. So every epoch would be like a new serialization of validators, and each one of them will get a block to propose to and a block to validate. So we already use this infrastructure now. It will help the decentralized consensus protocol in the future. What else is in V2? So there's one more feature we want to address. This is a commission increase feature. So another advantage of developing and implementing a staking mechanism and a proof of stake mechanism in incremental steps is you can do a product market fit. Basically, we implemented the first stage and we see what's gone good, what was good, what was bad, and how can we address these stuff. So the commission increase is exactly that. It relates to the economical incentive structure, like the stuff that the first version should dealt with, and it's a consequence of what we saw and what we wanted to improve. So we want to allow validators to raise the commission with predefined limits. So currently validators can only decrease their commission. We want to allow them to increase their commission, but we want to add some safeguards to protect delegators. So we added a feature called a maximum like a maximum commission commitment. Basically, it's a promise from the validator saying, hey, no matter what, I'm not going to take more than 10% for the next year. And this would bring more transparency and flexibility both to validators and delegators. So, like I said, the main pain point was to increase economical flexibility for validators, especially when we demand more and more from them. And also, we wanted to safeguard delegators, so preventing sudden and unbounded commission hikes or spikes. So that's the scope. The scope is basically the main thing is block attestations, with making sure that validators attest to blocks and run reliable infrastructure. Epochs, which support also the current design and future design, and the commission increase.
I have a question, Nathan, maybe,
Sure.
and I'm sorry if this is irrelevant, but commissions in the protocol, was there consideration in just having a protocol without commission? And if people want to implement commission, they could just add an overlay with separate smart contracts to implement commission? Does
Yes.
it have to be part of the core design?
So I think this is a very good question. As we saw, it is a sidetrack, but I think it's an interesting discussion. So I really want to dive into it. Basically, the first big chain that adopted proof of stake was Ethereum. A lot of new chains spun up with proof of stake, but Ethereum was a major one that just adopted it. And after it did, it took a while, but a lot of economical mechanisms and devices were implemented in a very, very difficult environment to enable staking to be part of DeFi, or even use staking as part of DeFi. And I think, in a sense, as learning from, I don't know if Ethereum mistakes, but every time you're doing something novel, there's a lot of things to grind off, and people can learn from you. So it became almost a industry standard for every other chain that came up after that they looked for a very, very easily integrated economical devices in their staking mechanisms. And what's the benefits of it? It's not only that it's very, very easy to interact, or I would say integrate with the staking mechanism, it's much more transparent. So right now, if you want to understand who is doing the staking in Ethereum, it's not very easy. It's even quite difficult. But all of the other chains, you can have lists of stakers and their delegators in a very, very formal way, which is more transparent and easy, not for integration, but also easier for the end user. So this is why we went with it, basically. Does that make sense?
It does, thanks.
Sure, thank you. Okay, let's talk about the timeline. So the initial testnet launch is pretty soon, so late February or early March. It's still in the works. I really want to push testnet to be as long as possible. What we can see afterwards is a community vote. So we plan to have a community vote. Again, I don't want to front run any governance or SNF official stuff. So this is not, don't take this as the most official, and by the end of a vote, we will have a public announcement and a very good description of proposal, but this is like a sketch of where we think it should be. This means that you already have a testnet version. You can look at it and understand it combined with the functionality explanation in the SNIP. So we think it's a good place to have a vote. And we learned from last time, it's a longer period. So this is the two things I want you to focus on, not the exact dates, but just the ballpark of where they are. And the mainnet launch, again, depending on governance and other stuff, currently we plan to have it in late April. So from the community standpoint, we're talking about almost 2 months in testnet. And I think this is really, really important. So we did a validator survey, and we looked about what is missing and what is problematic in other networks with upgrades and such. And long testnet periods just came on, kept on like as an issue with other networks, with bad documentations and not enough time on testnet. So this is why we're trying to have like as long as a prolonged testnet period as possible. Yeah, so that's about it. Any questions about the timeline? Maybe Beja and Ri.
There's no comments about the timeline, and no, it's pretty clear to me. Thank you. So maybe I have one actually.
Yeah.
So what is the content that is being voted on exactly, and when will it be final? In past votes, there's been, hey, we're voting on this thing, and then it was amended. And is the SNIP 28 as it is published now? What is the content of the vote, or will it be something else? And how long before the actual vote will it be published?
So I think Two great questions. The first one about the possible amendments. So we very want to make sure that there would not be any amendment post vote proposal. So from your question, like there's no chance of us. I would say, like we want to make sure we will not publish a vote proposal and then do amendments on the actual vote. Regarding amendments, I'm gathering a huge amendment, I'm trying to gather all the small stuff into one amendment and publish it as soon as possible. I assume it will be by end of week or early next week. And the vote proposal will be only after that. And the vote proposal would specify exactly what is being voted on, refer to a specific GitHub repo with the SNIP. And that's how I see it.
Perfect. That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so how to prepare? What do you need to do? Basically, validators, you need to upgrade the full node stack and follow the guides when ready. So like I said, currently validators run full nodes, but there's a new version of full nodes that's coming up with an extra package that would basically do the block attestation. So you need to upgrade to this, connect your operational address to that full node upgrade, and basically follow the guides explaining step by step what to do.
I have a small question for you, Nathan. So you're talking about how to prepare for staking. Do you plan on covering how to prepare for the vote? Like, for example, do I need to delegate my Stark? Do I need to lock my V-Stark? Will you cover this later on?
Yeah, I think this is a great thing, and I want to talk about it right now because we already touched base on the vote. So what's going to happen with specifically with staked Stark and delegated Stark around the vote? For who's are not familiar with the governance procedure and on-chain voting, currently on StarkNet, to vote, you need to rep your Stark in V-Stark. Specifically, we believe that staking should not compete with the ability to vote. We think that the fact that people are willing to contribute to the security doesn't mean they should not be able to vote or participate in voting. Currently, how it's made, the actual structure of VStark doesn't allow us to easily just flick a switch and tell it, oh, all the staking power is just voting power. But what we can do is add staking power and delegated stake, all of it as voting power that would be easily verifiable. So to the vote we're talking about, to the vote of upgrading V1 to V2, whoever has staked Stark as delegated to someone else or as self-stake as a validator would have the same amount as voting power delegated to himself. And again, this might be complicated. If there are extra questions, let's touch base afterwards. It was a longer answer than I thought, and it's digressing a bit. So maybe
okay. So just to sum it up really quick, the people will be able to vote on the next vote will be dedicated people to whom voting power has been delegated by the foundation, people who have locked their V-Stark and have delegated them, and people who have staked Starks, and they will have to vote with their key they are using for that.
Yes, that's correct. Okay, so how to prepare, not to the vote, but the actual upgrade. So validators, like I said, need to upgrade their full node stack, test on testnet, and they should be aware of the idea of commission increase and commitments. They might want to set a commitment or whatever, or increase their commission or change it or lower it. UIs and wallets. So from this version, there's going to be a sense of a liveness parameter. I would be able to track publicly the reliability of different validators. And I expect both dashboards and UIs to present this liveness parameter. This would affect how me personally would delegate my stocks and to whom I trust. I want to see their performance. Another thing, that the commission commitment, the idea that a validator can commit or promise to a maximal commission, I would expect dashboards to display it in some sorts of way. And some tracking of epochs. So some of it might be not for the end users, but more for, I would say, like the block explorer, from the more tech, or like the more, I would say, developing, more for the developers and not for the end users, but some sort of tracking of epochs would be also very, very helpful. Who else? So LSTs, and it's just a very, very well-known on-chain integration, liquid staking tokens, but there are other possible on-chain integration with the staking contracts. This is a mistake. Wait a minute. This is an epoch. Yes, sorry. Epoch and rewards distribution. So basically, tracking reward is a bit different. And if you're doing it from the UI or like have a backend, it's not very complicated, but on-chain integration is very delicate. So the change to epochs and how rewards are being distributed is something to keep an eye on and check the repo. And epochs, structures, and the full list of I would say backward incompatible or changes would be by end of month. So we'll have a proper release note format, and we'll share it with all the known on-chain integrations. And if there's any, currently they are in development for multi-validator LSTs, so all the validator points are relevant. Basically, LSTs are in itself at least one validator, so they need to upgrade their full node and do all the stuff that validators need to do. If they have a multi-validator set, they need to do something even more complicated. So now it's just links I'll share in the as a comment. So we have like the open source staking repo. We have the blog post, the SNIP 28 we are discussing, and the staking documentation, and that's about it. Any questions?
Amazing. I don't see any questions in the chat for now, so I have some questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I mean, we cover the whole VStark and how validators can also participate in governance, but right now I'm more interested in kind of this all or nothing reward system. That's kind of how you describe it in the community forum, all or nothing, meaning, of course, if a validator misses an attestation, they don't get a reward. Could you shine some light on what this entails for not only big validators, but smaller validators in terms of, possible penalties, possible reputation going forward?
Yes. So I think the description or title you chose is a bit scarier than what it actually means. Epochs are in the order of magnitude of an hour. And what I mean by that is you'll have a single assignment per epoch. And if you manage to do it, great, you got your rewards for that specific hour. And if you didn't, you don't get rewards. This is not a very unique thing. Maybe it's, again, phrased in a scary way, too scary way in the community post. So I'm not putting the phrasing on you necessarily, but the idea is we have a granulated frequency of blocks would be approximately 1 hour. And during this hour, every hour, a validator needs to attest to a single block. And not failing to attest means you don't get rewards. I don't want to see this as penalties. These are not penalties. Penalties refer to slashing and sorts. It's the underlying stake you put in that it is risk, and this is not the case. The underlying stake you put in is not at risk by any chance. The only thing that can happen is your validator is not live, you're not getting your rewards, and you can switch to another validator relatively easy using Endure dashboard and other dashboards that support the switch mechanism. So that's from the delegator standpoint, and from the validator standpoint, we are not in the situation we have actual slashing at the moment.
Amazing clarity. So, I'm let's say I'm a delegator. Well, I am a delegator, and I'm looking to have some more insight on, how, or just the liveness of different validators. What type of tooling could we have? Is this going to be a community effort? How about some insight there?
So regarding liveness and tracking it as a delegator, all the dashboards that supported V1, we are still in touch, and we are talking about what they need to do and what their action items towards V2. So if you're not familiar with the Voyager dashboard, with the Endure dashboard, with the staking rewards dashboard, with StarScan, all of which plan to have a liveness parameter next to each and every validator. The liveness parameter would basically say, out of an X amount of epochs, how many epochs this particular validator was attested correctly. and the exact amount, and if it will be configurable. Can you look at the last week, last day, last I don't know, month? That depends on the dashboard and the UX and UI decisions. But basically, this is the feature, and it would help delegators to make more, I would say, intelligent decisions around it.
Educated is the word you were looking for.
Oh. Yeah, you're
I'm
right.
kidding.
More intelligent decisions and more educated decisions. You're right. Because ignorance and being smart are two different things. You're absolutely
Exactly. No, and
That's-
also, anyway. Do you have more question, Berha?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't something you mentioned in the presentation, but it was kind of discussed in the community forum. A possible mandated mandated minimum commission for validators. So I understand right now there's a problem, right? That most of the staking is being concentrated in a few delegators, which have 0% commission. So like, how do we, or what's the train of thought here? Like, what could this possible mandated minimum commission implicate? And, what's the balance here, right? Like, should we decide or let the free market decide decide the commissions, or, like, how does this become sustainable?
This is a great question, and I want to say that you are referring to a different community post that was more exploratory. So the SNIP is very, I think, accurate and specific. And we had, prior to that, we wanted to have a community discussion, and I still very, very much would like to hear community thoughts around that. But basically, what we said is currently staking is a very early stage, and we can see some stuff that are not optimal. So like you said, stake centralization is an issue. I don't think we see the end result, and I don't think it's a severe issue because a lot of players still have not integrated. So centralized exchanges are about to integrate, and they would shift the map completely. Also custodians, L1 custodians and L2 custodians that hold substantial amount of stocks would also shift the map. But it is something to look to consider. So we do see some trends and possibilities where stake is not decentralized enough, and we thought about contingencies. Basically, what would be able to do if we see such a thing. So it was a very exploratory discussion about possible contingencies we can implement inside the protocol. One of which was one you referred to, is having some sort of a minimum commission, but the minimum commission is kind of depending on the amount of stock being delegated to you. So what basically we want to say is, hey, if you take 0 commission and there's a lot of delegations coming at your way, we want to make you take money or tax these delegators for not decentralizing the network. So instead of be able to take 0 commission with, 20% of stake being delegated to you, we would make you take 10% because you have a lot of responsibility. You should be able to run infra. You should be able to make money out of it. And delegators should know that coming to centralizing the stake is not a good thing. We are not planning to implement such a thing. It was an exploratory idea. It's very novel. I haven't seen it in any other network. I think it's interesting, but I think that when we'll increase responsibilities from validators, we'll see commission increase, and we'll see stake distributed differently. So I don't think we need to implement it now. Like, this is the advantage of incremental implementation. Like, we have more time and we want to see what actually happens. So that's the full take of what you refer to.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a cool thought experiment, and it's basically a call to action. I mean, these exploratory conversations are, they're happening in the community forum. It's a call to action. Community members, participate. You guys can also influence the direction of where the network is going, and the fact that SNIP authors are active in the forum and actively engaging with these thoughts, I think is huge. So the impact is there.
Thank you. I want to shout out to a very, very cool idea that was presented both in the community forum from one person and from another person on the Telegram channel, having some sort of a staking dashboard or a staking app where you would delegate your stocks to a random validator conditioned that he performs the way you want it to be. So you want to have a liveness parameter of more than 95, you want to have low commission, and then it would randomly distribute your stocks, especially to lower validators that don't have a lot of stake delegated to them. I think this is a very, very cool idea of how to navigate the community to invest in decentralization. And I really hope it's going to be like there's this very, very nice beta, like an alpha version or beta version, but I really would like to see such an app. And shout out to both people who thought about it and people who want to contribute to it. So that's also.
It sounds like a product. If you're building this product, reach out. There's plenty of ways the foundation can support you and would be happy to have more tooling towards their centralization. Seed grants.
Yes, amazing.
All right, folks, are we done with the agenda?
Pretty much.
Yeah, I was checking the chat. I don't see any more questions. I mean, I guess to just wrap it up, Nathan, I have one.
I think so. Let's well, thank you, Nathan, for presenting. I also want to say thank you, Beha, for putting this up and organizing this first call. We're going to start doing more regular calls like this one, where we talk all things governance, SNIP, upcoming votes, and so on. So we will do the tentative for the next one is in 2 weeks. So tune in and make sure to connect if you have your questions. And in the meanwhile, where should people post their questions? Community forum?
Community forum.
GitHub?
Community forum, yeah,
Twitter?
sure. Community forum.
Community forum. Community forum is the place to be. This is where the party's at. So make sure to ask your questions there, folks.
Amazing.
All
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.
Thank you, everyone. See you. Bye.